Hey, what's going on, gang? Dan on the Stone here. Welcome back to my channel and to the 72nd edition of the Rolling Stone. Hope that you all had a very somber and reflective 9/11 this year, the 19th anniversary of Al-Qaeda terrorists flying those planes into the World Trade Center, which really, in hindsight, marked the end of the post-Cold War era. From 1990 till 2001, so for 11 years, give or take a couple of months, we'll just say a decade, we really did live in a fantasy land, what Francis Fukuyama called the end of history. The end of the Cold War, the collapse of the Soviet Union, was supposed to be the de facto ultimate triumph of Western liberalism, ideas, systems of government, democracy, etc., etc. And now we were just going to kind of float downstream on the river of history, let the good times roll, and there weren't going to be really any other major problems ever again. In 19 years after those terrorists flew those planes into the World Trade Center, killing 3,000 Americans, that thesis, just seems ridiculous off the face of it. So, hope no matter what you did that you were able to have just a few moments of reflection and contemplation about the meaning of 9/11 and the implications of those meanings, especially in 2020, which continues just to be the year to end all years. This isn't the first time that there have been years where it seems like everything is thrown at you, but this is one of them. It is one of them. And the first story that we have to talk about deals with something that we don't talk about a lot here. It deals with an international story, okay? We delve into international stuff every now and then, but it's not our forte here. But this merits attention, especially because I really didn't see a lot of people talking about this, which is shocking, at the same time not shocking, and whether shocking or not shocking, it is scary. Let me just put it like that, because this is a big deal. The United States no longer has the largest navy in the world. In fact, the largest navy in the world does not belong to any Western nation, nor does it belong to any reliable ally of any Western nation. You want to take a wild guess as to which country has the largest navy now? It's China. China has officially surpassed the United States Navy. This is from Forbes. I'm going to read several paragraphs from Forbes because it encapsulates, I should say, very clearly what exactly this means, okay? Quote, China's Navy is an increasingly modern and flexible force that has focused on replacing previous generations of platforms with limited capabilities in favor of larger, modern, multi-row combatants, says a report from the Pentagon. Okay, so Forbes is actually quoting a report from the Pentagon. So this isn't some crazy right-wing site or anything like that, all of their writers wear the tinfoil hats on their heads when they go onto Google, because otherwise Google and Amazon are going to read their emotions through Amazon's new fitness app. That is actually a real thing too. No, this report comes from the Pentagon. So in other words, China has modernized its navy. Instead of its old clunky ships that could only do one thing, now they have modern, up-to-date ships and vessels that can do a multitude of different tasks. Forbes continues, quote, China's growing fleet of aircraft carriers has garnered the most attention. The People's Liberation Army and Navy has one decrepit ex-Soviet carrier, a newly commissioned carrier that is the first built in China, a third carrier under construction, and plans to build an additional 4 or more vessels. Fitted with advanced features like an electromagnetic launch system, a Chinese carrier fleet could provide air cover for an amphibious invasion of Taiwan or even confront the U.S. Navy in the first carrier versus carriers battle since World War II. Okay, carriers, big deal. Aircraft carriers. Not only are they one of the most expensive Navy vessels for a Navy to build just because they're so big, because they have to carry planes and everything that you need to actually maintain fighters and bombers and also all of their weapons on board, right? So big investment in money, and they are extremely powerful because of that, because you basically have a little airfield right there in the middle of the ocean. So then you can launch your fighter planes and attack other vessels, engage enemy aircraft if the enemy has aircraft carriers, and then of course you can launch bombers from there. That's what America was doing to Japan during World War II. American bombers were going over Tokyo and other cities with their bombers because we had aircraft carriers that were within flying distance of the Japanese mainland. So big deal that China has built its first aircraft carrier and that they're building more. Forbes continues, China has been busily building a new generation of sophisticated, heavily armed cruiser destroyers and corvettes. For example, in December 2019, China launched the 6th Type 055 Renhe class cruiser. The Renhe fields a large array of anti-ship cruise missiles and anti-aircraft missiles, along with likely LACMs, land attack cruise missiles, and anti-ship ballistic missiles, ASBMs, when those become operational, the Pentagon noted. This raises the prospect of a U.S. fleet being overwhelmed by massed salvos of anti-ship missiles, including deadly new hypersonic weapons that travel faster than Mach 5. So that's 5 times the speed of sound. These new Chinese missiles that they are putting onto these cruisers travel 5 times the speed of sound. Okay, that is wickedly fast. I don't have to tell you, gang, that that's big. Forbes continues. The People's Liberation Army and Navy is expected to build more diesel-powered and nuclear-powered attack submarines. China is also one of the few nations that possesses ICBM-armed nuclear ballistic missile submarines. In addition to its current 4 Type 094 subs armed with 12 JL-12 submarine-launched ballistic missiles, SLBMs each, a new boomer submarine is on the way. China's next generation Type 096 SSBN, which will likely begin construction in the early 2020s, will reportedly carry a new type of submarine-launched ballistic missile, the report predicts. The People's Liberation Army and Navy is expected to operate the Type 094 and Type 096 SSBNs concurrently and could have up to 8 SSBNs by 2030. So, in other words, China's Navy is not only huge, but it is extremely formidable. Okay, the Chinese Navy now, if we just wanted numbers, okay, it has 350 ships and submarines, including 130 major surface combatants, while the U.S. only has 293. This is the rise of China, gang. I hate to say it, but it is the rise of China. And the best part, to quote Danny DeVito as the Penguin in Batman Returns yet again, because I think I have used this quote more than once. This, in a case of either tragic irony or poetic justice, we paid for this. We paid for China's new Navy. We basically gave China the money to build the biggest Navy in the world. Because we've exported everything to China. The Wizards of Smart in the early 90s figured there would be absolutely no downsides to exporting all of this manufacturing stuff to China. They could make all of our cheap plastic. They could make all of our doors. I mean, heck, China now makes the Easter basket grass that your kids put in their Easter baskets whenever you do that. If you do follow that tradition, every Holy Saturday when you fill your Easter baskets up with it's basically shredded construction paper. That's basically what it is. Shredded construction paper or shredded confetti paper or pieces of green plastic, okay? China makes that even, okay? We can't even shred up green plastic or green confetti paper for Easter baskets. We ship everything to China. Everything that we buy, practically, all the clothes items practically that you buy in Target, in Kohl's, in Walmart come from China. All the plastic practically that we purchase in our stores are Chinese. So much stuff, toys, games, electronics. We did a whole video about this, gang. You know this. You know the numbers. If you watched that video, and I will link it here in this video, so if you missed that video, or if you want to watch it again to refresh your memory, you'll be able to have it. But that is how China got the money to pay for this new Navy. We paid for it. We paid for it because our so-called leaders told us that it was perfectly all right to purchase what amounts to slave-manufactured cheap products from China so that we could save a couple of extra bucks in our pocket every week. And there were going to be absolutely no downsides. Well, the Chinese actually seem to be having the last laugh. And there are practical applications to this, gang. There are very practical applications to this. This is from, take a gander, for example, at this headline from the South China Morning Post, which is a newspaper based in Hong Kong. Headline: China debates cutting U.S. access to drugs as hostilities spike. Some government advisors say China should cut drug exports to the U.S. if Washington increases sanctions. And they actually quote, the story quotes Mr. Lee Do-kyu. I know that I am horribly butchering his name. Apologies in advance. Mr. Lee Do-kyu, a prominent Chinese academic and government advisor who told local media that limiting access to medicines could be legitimate retaliation for U.S. exports controls on American technology and software. In a statement to the South China Morning Post, Lee said he was making a point that the U.S. and China are mutually dependent and it is impossible for the two countries to decouple. But he also suggested in 2019 that China could curb its exports of antibiotics to the U.S. as a trade war retaliation tool. Now, I don't believe him one iota when he says, I believe that, America and China cannot decouple. Bollocks! The Chinese want nothing more. That's not exactly true. I was about to say the Chinese want nothing more than to decouple from us. They don't want that. What they want is not for this to be an equal partnership between nations. They want to be the domineering partner. They basically want us to be an economic colony of China. But beside all of that, again, in my previous video where I talked about the coming war with China, we get the vast, vast majority of our medicine from China. So does actually most of the West. If China decided that it was just going to severely curb exporting medicine or the chemical bases needed to manufacture medicines, what could we actually do to retaliate against that now that China has the biggest navy in the world? And not just 350 ships of rusting, hulking, decrepit monsters, but sleek, state-of-the-art, modern war machines. What could we actually do? And then there's another problem with this. When you build a navy like that, you obviously want to use it. And the Chinese say whatever you want about Beijing, but it knows exactly what it wants. It believes firmly in Chinese supremacy around the globe. Mark Stein has made this point several times, that the Chinese firmly believe that after, maybe 500 years of European dominance, history is actually swinging back to the natural state of the world, with China being the center of the globe and everyone bowing in obeisance to them. They really believe that, gang. And this building, the world's largest navy, is proof positive that they not only have the military muscle and the willpower to use it, but they are daring anyone to stop them. They're almost begging for someone. They're almost, I would guarantee it, almost looking for an excuse to use it. And again, like I said, all because our geniuses said that, there weren't going to be any downsides. They were going to manufacture all of our stuff. We were going to be the knowledge economy. But of course, the Chinese took that too, by putting spying hardware into, hardware that they then shipped to us, which were then used by military contracts, banks, Apple even. They stole all of our ideas. Now, what can we do about this? I don't know, honestly, right off the top of my head, gang. I mean, I would say buy American. I mean, our companies are hardly any better because they're turning into woke monsters too, but it's better than the alternative to China. And really defeat the left, I would say. I mean, everything is so interconnected anymore. And I mean, everything is always interconnected, but we have to defeat the left in order for the country to have some semblance of unity again, because it's only going to take a united effort to actually stand up to China. And that might seem very vague, but again, I'm not a diplomat. I'm not a politician. I can't say, oh, well, if we just pass this law over here and then raise these tariffs over here, that will give us the winning solution. And then China's new navy will rust overnight as if by fairy magic. It doesn't work that way. I don't have to tell you that. And even if it did, I wouldn't be the one to have the answer. But I wanted to let you know, again, as we are inundated with stories of woke sports teams, woke businesses, pedophilic movies, and just the continued chaos, anarchy, insurrections of the left here, that there are things happening outside of our borders, very worrisome things that we also have to pay attention to. That is story number one.